Princess Mary, born in 1516, was soon seen to be the sole offspring of Henry VIII's marriage, with no more boys being born, let alone surviving after 1511. The current view of a female's legal position meant that a queen regnant was still supposedly the inferior of her husband and duty-bound to accept his political direction. The husband had to be of royal rank, at least in England in the early 16th century. Mary Stuart in Scotland could marry an English nobleman of royal blood in 1565. Margaret Tudor's grandson, Lord Darnley, but Robert Dudley, was to be violently opposed by English nobles as too lowly in rank for Elizabeth I. The unpopularity of the upstart Dudleys was an added complication. His father having been leader of a controversially reformist Protestant regime in 1549–53, and his grandfather had been executed in 1510 as a scapegoat for Henry VII's extortion. Nor would Elizabeth allow Dudley to marry Mary Stuart in the early 1560s, a solution that would have kept this potential threat tied to a trustable Protestant husband and so unlikely to press her claim to the English throne, though the possessive queen was also no doubt unwilling to send her close companion Dudley away from her court to Scotland. As we shall learn, Henry VIII was equally touchy on the prospect of a royal marrying a partner of lower social status, but there were precedents for such a marriage, as Edward IV had, controversially, married a commoner, Elizabeth Woodville, albeit one with a mother of ducal Luxembourg blood. His brothers, George and Richard, had married the daughters of their cousin Warwick the Kingmaker, and their sisters, Anne and Elizabeth, had married into the English nobility, the Duke of Exeter and the Earl of Suffolk. Further back, Edward III's heir, Edward of Woodstock, had married his semi-royal cousin, Countess Joan of Kent, who had already married two commoners, and Edward III's younger sons, John and Thomas, had married the heiresses of the noble lines of Lancaster and Hereford, both semi-royal. Were the parvenu Tudor dynasty more touchy about keeping up their social status by marrying people of royal blood than were the later Plantagenets? The argument that marrying a princess off to a great noble gave the latter's family undue power, causing resentment among rivals, had not prevented such marriages occurring under the later Plantagenets. These kings were insecure and at risk of revolt, as were Henry VII and VIII, at least once the first successful armed challenge had rocked Richard II's throne in 1387–88, and Henry IV and Edward IV were particularly at risk as usurpers.